Welcome to Profoundly Impactful, guys.
Thanks.
Wesley Hooks, Keenan Boogaard, two of my very best friends. I'm proud to have you guys here today to talk about what has been the most profoundly impactful experience of your life, your career, or your recovery. And I probably have some personal insight into that as well. Lead it off, Keenan.
Okay, so I would say that the most profoundly impactful experience of my life feeds into my recovery and my career. It was getting sober from an addiction that lasted for over 12 years, from the middle of my adolescence into my late 20s. I found a program, Stout Street Foundation, where I met these gentlemen. And
Unfortunately.
Well, we're here now, so
Hey,
something worked, man.
we made it.
I found this place and was totally out of options. I was addicted to heroin and cocaine and had been for some time, and didn't have any resources. My family was ready to disconnect if I didn't complete some form of treatment, and had only sustained maybe 10 weeks of sobriety in a 12-year period when I was in treatment, and it didn't last. And so I got there, and it was really hard at first. I felt better than everyone. I didn't want to stay. But being out of options, I just forced myself to stick it out and made some great connections and got sober from an addiction that had taken over my life. I didn't know how to be an adult. I had been high since being a teenager into my late 20s. And so I learned so much about myself and the fact that there was something else. A future was possible. I never thought that I'd see 30 or have any shot at a fulfilling life or profession, and made some great connections that I'll have for the rest of my life. Segued into the field working with these guys at a program down in Denver, and that was 4 or 5 years ago, and now I found a really fulfilling career, and I get to help people that are trying to get better from addiction as well, and that's something that fulfills a really deep personal need of mine since I was really hopeless and didn't think that it was possible. So if I can help even a few people find that opportunity and make it to the other side and see that there's potential for something different, then that helps me a lot in my recovery, and it feels really fulfilling. And so
I think you hit the nail on the head, and something that's so important about recovery that often gets missed is that the pro-social support that you develop. Like if you can let go of the negative influences in your life and replace those with people who hold you accountable for being the best version of yourself.
Yeah. And
that's what's so cool about our group and why I'm so proud to work with you guys is you do that for me like 90% of the time. So. How about you, Wes? What was the most profoundly impactful experience?
Each day is profoundly impactful. I mean, if you would have told me I would have been doing this 10 years ago, I would have laughed at you. It's an absolute blessing to be in this room with you guys doing what we do, something that I didn't realize I was so passionate about until, you just start taking opportunities and going through doors that are open without really knowing what's going to happen when you walk through. I hate to echo what Keenan said, but finding Stout Street was divine intervention. It was something that I could have sworn I was going to take my own life at the age of 27. That's when I wanted to die with all the bad boys, And then when I was sitting in jail, I'd realized that I had done nothing significant with my life to even deserve to die. That's the way that I looked at it. No one would have ever shown up at my funeral. My last DUI accident, I had a tattoo appointment the next day scheduled to get Wasted Talent tattooed on my eyelids. And I say that because that was just kind of where I was at in my addiction. And it's kind of funny, but man, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world to see people's reactions when I was going to get that. And when it came to sentencing time, I had told the judge that I'd been living the rock star lifestyle without the star part. I had just been rocking, and he chuckled and he asked me to approach, and he said, "Mr. Hooks, the only reason I'm approving this is because I've never met somebody that has successfully completed Stout Street Foundation." Fast forward into treatment, it was just a weird aligning of the stars to walk in and be around people from completely different backgrounds, but we had this one common interest, and it was we were sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that just blossomed into what it is today, a friendship that has become my own sober social network. Even though, you know, we clown on each other all the time for never really being able to get to hang out as often as we would like, we still keep in contact with the phone calls. And now that I have the opportunity to work with you, Austin, is just been a blessing in disguise. When we had all left from Quiet River, I'm like, F those guys, I'm never going to work with them again. And
we've had our share of conflict.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been easy.
No, and but that's the beauty of recovery, and that's why I said each day is profoundly impactful in my life, because there isn't a day that goes by that I don't learn something new about myself, about the industry. I mean, it has blossomed this friendship that I truly believe is going to last the rest of our lifetime. You know, you go to school with your best friend and you're like, we're never going to get separated. We're going to go to college and we're going to get married and have kids and it's going to be fun. Not marry each other, but and then that falls off. You know, you go through different phases of your life where you have different friend groups, but this was the most impactful one in my life, because you guys have seen me in my most vulnerable states. You guys know how to call me on my BS and know the red flags when you see them, and know when to press and when to ask, you know, do you need something? How can I help? And that goes a long ways and kind of speaks the type of experience that we had together going through a 2 to 3 year therapeutic community that quite arguably is one of the most challenging for any one person to go through. And I'm just forever blessed to have you guys in my life. I'm stoked to be up here and not fumbling my words.
You're so much better on camera now than you were 4 years ago.
I've matured, and I've matured, and I mean that because I used to ultimately what I think a lot of people thought made me invaluable in the beginning was, you know, I had the courage to walk up to strangers and just start spilling everything and befriend everybody. From that, I've learned the value of stopping and listening before I speak, which is a lot for me. Well, you've heard from us, Austin. What, in your experience, is the most profound moment in your life?
So mine was at the same point in time as you guys. I mean, my catalyst for change, or when I finally realized that I could not continue on the road that I was going on, was April 2nd, 2011. And I woke up in jail with no recollection of how I got there. I was 29 years old, and I was married at the time. And I remember waking up in jail, not knowing how I got there. And I picked up the phone and I called my wife at the time, and she didn't answer. And then I called my parents, and they didn't answer. And then I called everybody in my life who I called a friend, and nobody would take the call. And I remember sitting there, and I just started to cry. And I was like, if I don't figure this out, I'm gonna either die, or worse, I'm gonna end up killing somebody else, because I don't even remember where I was yesterday. I was at Rocky's opening day, and I blacked out at 10 a.m. and passed out at a restaurant. They called the paramedics. I had a warrant for my arrest for a probation violation, which was my third on the same case. And I remember sitting there. I'd been to treatment 3 times before, and it had never worked. And I'd had brief periods where I saw the light, but I would always start to think again, well, you know, I can drink, like it'll be fine. I'll just drink and I'll be good. And then I was like, well, if I can drink, I can smoke weed, because I mean, everybody smokes weed, you know? And so then slowly but surely I'd be right back to my drug of choice, which was opiates. And that happened every time. And so when I finally found recovery, I had learned every way that doesn't work. And I remember looking online for treatment center for people who treatment centers don't work for. And that's when I found Stout Street Foundation. And it was just by way of, like you said, man, divine intervention that I wound up there. And I walked in and I said, holy shit, what did I get myself into? Like, this is nuts. This is nuts.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, man, I had some of the greatest friends ever. I mean, the greatest friends I've ever had, you know? And it just naturally evolved in a way where it finally started to feel normal. Mm-hmm. Like, I think for me, it was, you know, 7 to 10 months in, I was like, you know what, I think I could do this for the rest of my life. And then at about 18 months, I said, you know what, I think I want to work in this field and I want to help others find what I have. And then it was just literally one foot in front of the other. And when I left Stout Street Foundation, I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have a car, I didn't have a checking account. All of my clothes were in a black trash sack. And slowly but surely, I got everything back and more. Everything back. It was like a checklist, like, you know, driver's license, car, making amends with my family, making amends with my ex-wife. I mean, all of the things that come with a life in recovery, and just continually doing the next right thing. And every time a negative influence would come in my life, I'd say, you know what, I've gone down that road before. I know what the outcome is, and I'm going to trust in what people have told me, and I'm going to just do the next right thing. And if you tie enough of those decisions together, you come out on the other side. And it was 2 years in for me where I was like, I feel like I'm on the other side. And now looking back 6+ years later, I'm like, we made it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know? So that was it for me, man. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. It's awesome to get to sit down and reflect back on how far we've all truly come. And I'm just blessed to get to work with you guys every day.
Indeed. Thanks for having us, man.
It's the nicest thing I'm going to say to you for a while.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thanks,
It's on
guys.
film, so we're good.